You're gotta blow a job interview as fast as you can. What do you do? So what exactly is the drug test able to detect? Say that you think the company is dumb and you're only there because your mother made you. More effective the older you are. Ask about the sexual harassment policy. How close are we to a school zone, exactly? Be myself. That has a proven track record. Sit down, reach into my backpack and pop open a beer. Scratch your ass, then go for the handshake. Show up drinking a beer, and when the interviewer brings it up apologetically say, "Oh, sorry bud, how rude of me." And proceed to pull another warm beer out of my purse and toss it to them. I read that as blowjob an interview, which inspires me to say offer a blowjob. Showing up to interview with a pet parrot on your shoulder does not blow the interview. My wife worked for a popular online shoe retailer that starts with a Z and interviewed a guy who showed up like this. She gave him the job because who wouldn't want to work with a dude that would show up to an interview with a bird on their shoulder? Just don't show up. Edit. This is how I would bomb a job interview because I'd be too anxious to do anything more drastic. Lol. Yes, nowadays they'd probably reach out to reschedule or something. This is also the least effort, but if you're collecting unemployment it could be used against you, who knows? Show up with my mom and have her answer all the questions for me. Say, meow, at the end of each sentence. I'd appear with my well-loved plushie and let it do the interview for me. This reminds me of an old joke. Interviewer, one last question. What would you say is your biggest flaw? Job seeker, well, I'm brutally honest. Interviewer, I see, well really, I think that's really not too much of a flaw. Job seeker, I don't give a fuck what you think. Did this years ago. I drank a Coke quickly to settle my stomach before a big interview for a dream job. Right as introductions are being made and I am shaking the CEO's hand, I don't say, "Nice to meet you." I instead let out the loudest, nastiest belch ever formed by my digestive tract. Epic echo in the hallway, too. No way to recover. I just turned around silently and left. Never heard from him again. Many years ago I went through a mass hiring session. 1,500 people showed up. There was a brief screening interview and then applicants would move on to the second interview based on that first interview. I was passed on to the second round and was sitting waiting my turn. Behind me was a curtain and on the other side was someone doing the first interviews. Interviewer asked a guy about his last job and why he left. He said, "You gotta understand I sweat. I mean I sweat a lot. I was a waiter and I would bring a plate of food to someone and drip into their dinner. They didn't like that." Without hesitation the interviewer called out, "Next. Ask for the Wi-Fi pass is the first thing. Start talking about how Hitler was just misunderstood. It'd be really funny if I got this job. Totally not because I would commit arson or anything, but it'd be really funny. Dress up as the original Agent Smith. I get bonus points to start talking in his manner. I also refer to the interviewer as Mr. Anderson and be as condescending as possible. I got head-hunted by DHS a long while back. They wanted me to work in IT, something to do with port security. I had no intention of taking the job, so I started off by saying that I could not possibly work for Homeland Security because I don't have a mustache. He then started talking about ports and I was inspired by The Wire to ask about what happens if I were to stumble across a container filled with Russian girls. I asked him if it was as many as you can fit in your car kind of thing. Union. Ask salary range and then say that's it. I once got down to a final interview with a big TV company, and blew it because they asked me what I thought of their Saturday night schedule. Then I proceeded to dissect everything they aired, and why it was basically mindless garbage for idiots. The interview didn't last long after that. Basically, the fastest way to fuck up an interview is be honest. Don't worry, I'm in anger management. Light a cigarette. Show up unwashed and disheveled and drinking from an open bottle. Piss on the fern in the reception area. I'd wear my Star Trek uniform. I'm sorry I'm late, I had some trouble getting rid of my ankle monitor. Toss in an F-bomb during greetings. Hello, I'm the hiring manager Marge. Well, how the fuck are ya Marge? That should work. Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Doing your son. Show up in a t-shirt with a photo of a cat's face on it and ask for a chair for the urn you're carrying. When they ask why, say it's for your dead cat's ashes, his name was Fuckface. When their jaws drop open, explain how you took in this poor cat whose owner died and was found a week later being eaten by his starving cat. Fun fact, that's a true story of how a woman blew an interview. Except, the job was in the Caribbean and they flew her out there, and she took the urn to a dinner and asked for a place setting. Enter the room caterpillar crawling in a blanket. So you guys are okay with nudity, right? Scream the N-word. In my early 20s, I interview for a sales job. He asked me for my philosophy on work. I told him that I work to live. I don't live to work. He said that I'd have to change my attitude if I wanted to work there, so I laughed and walked right out the door. Show up in BDSM gear. Show up to the interview, conducted by your potential female boss, wearing a short-sleeve button-down shirt with a print pattern that reads, "Who's your daddy?" I didn't do this, but it actually happened to a boss of mine. Software engineer here. This is very specific to my field. We have coding interviews where we are given a problem to solve and have to do it right there in front of the interviewer. These problems are typically leak code problems which are entertaining puzzles until you are under the pressure of an interview with a time crunch and no reference materials. I refuse to do these interviews. I had an interview the other day which I cancelled because they were doing one of these. After the fact I realized what I should have done. I should have gone and then when they asked the question do like any real software engineer would do and Google the answer and copy and paste the code from the first result. I wouldn't have gotten the job, but it would have been a fun story. I unzip my pants and dick slap the interviewer. I show up without an interpreter. Is there a union? Will I have to work with any coloreds? Just tell them you don't think it's a good fit. I've done that. It's okay to be honest with potential employers. Blow the interviewer. 1. While standing, turn around so back is facing interviewer. 2. Pull down trousers and underwear. 3. Bend down and place fingers on toes. 4. Fart. Unzips. You wouldn't believe how loud it is when I drop this on a desk. Could you move that folder? It will muffle the sound. Light a cigarette and tell them your bedbugs are really affecting your ability to concentrate while scratching yourself furiously. Or just don't turn up. 0 time spent. Fast AF. Confidently say, "I'm a N-word lover." This will both disgust and completely offend both racists as well as normal well-adjusted people. A lot of people on questions like this will aim too hard towards one side or the other. This isn't a surefire method because you never really know which side the other person might be on. I instead hit both sides as hard as possible. All the racist will hear is lover, and all the normal people will hear the N-word, and all the people in the middle will recognize that people on both sides will take issue with what I've said, so no one wins in the end.